Well, hello everyone. Hope you're all well. Here we are, another Sunday night here in the potting shed. Let me just move my seat up a bit closer to the camera. Hope everyone's well out there. Interesting times at the moment. And yeah, what have you been up to in your own allotment, your own gardens, or anything like that? I want to find out. I'll let you know what I've been up to just while we wait for the people to come in. So today I've harvested my pumpkins. Finally got around to doing it and enjoying those. We're going to be making lots of pumpkin soup, lots of other things up, or to use those pumpkins up. We're going to. What else have I done? I've been planting out some more saffron crocus bulbs. Love saffron. Love growing saffron. Just don't produce enough of it. So trying to produce more. Lots of things that I've been up to. What have you been up to? Let me know in the comments. You can call in on 07307 135 174, or you can zap yourself in and appear on the screen with me. I have added the link into the comments, although if you're watching on the Facebook group, you may not be able to see my comments. Now I can see we've had a few people turn up already. So we've got Ed Loud, Eve Goodnins. Hope you are doing well. Very well, thank you, Ed. Hope you're well too. Facebook user is saying, hi, Richard, a nice intro. That's somebody in the group. I'm going to guess possibly Ian. Could be wrong, but reckon so. Anna Jones, hello, everyone. Hello to you. And Facebook user, carving pumpkins next week then? No, we're going to be eating our pumpkins. Yeah, the Facebook user, I'm not sure who it is, unfortunately. There's conflict because it's in a Facebook group, is asking if I caught anything on my wildlife camera at the allotment after I lost my pumpkin. Well, no, I didn't catch whoever stole my pumpkin or anything like that since I've got my wildlife camera set up. I did discover, I have to dig out the video. I was playing around with my wildlife camera. I've got it right down here, actually. That's the one. I did discover that in my potting shed where I sow most of my seeds, a little bird was coming inside there and stealing all my seeds, which is why I had lost so many seeds. Didn't realize that. Thankfully, that wildlife camera was what told me what was going on there. So really, really quite welcome. Facebook user is Stuart. Sorry, Stuart. It's not came up with who you are. I know it gets confusing. My dad is asking, how big are your pumpkins? They're about that big. They're not huge. Mine are a variety called Crown Prince. Now, these are the best type, or one of the better types for edible pumpkins. These aren't really what you would class as carving pumpkins, but I like them because they are edible. Allotment Life, hello to you. Ed Loud is saying the intro music is very good. Makes me think something George Harrison would have done. I was just having some fun one day, a bit bored. An Allotment Life is saying he needs a camera on his allotment to catch thieves. You know what? I think that was about £30 on Amazon or something like that. Black Friday deals at the moment. It's worth having a look and seeing what you can get. Obviously, you'll need a memory card as well. It's all a bit confusing on the Facebook group. I can don't know why it's not telling you it's Ian saying about pumpkins. It's because of Facebook's algorithms. They don't, because you're in a group, it doesn't let it come through or anything. If you're on the Facebook page, you can share, but because you're in the group, it's not working quite like that. Anyway, who else have we got out there? Steve's picked his first ever lot of fennel this morning. Looking forward to roasting them for tea. I'm not keen on fennel myself, but I don't like aniseed, and I find it has that flavour. But see what you think. Julia Hartley, good evening. Ed Loud, evening, Kevin, and so on. And Kevin's Rambles is out there, and so on and so on. So basically, we've got a lot of people who are coming in. Now, one of the subjects I want to talk about tonight, and I'm going to put the question: are self-managed allotment sites better than council-run allotment sites? Now, the reason I'm asking this is if we go into the Facebook group, you will see that Stephen Ticehurst, what do people know about self-managed allotment sites? The local council is suggesting ours go self-managed and have sent out voting forms. I believe it's already been decided, and this is just due process. Our site committee is advising us to vote no, but actually neither the council or current committee do anything. So I'm quite liking the idea. We have so many unkept plots, and yet there is a waiting list. We have no delivery of wood chippings or manure or anything at all. I wouldn't mind being a bit more involved and get things done. The current view is it's up to the council to do it, and so we shouldn't have to, and the committee wouldn't do anything. Seems to me that a new guard needs to take over. Anyone got a plot or part of a self-managed site? Back onto there. Sorry, let me go on to that. There we go. So that is what Stephen is asking. Are self-managed allotment sites any good? Now, my experience with self-managed allotment sites is a bit of mixed. I don't know if mine's technically self-run. Ours is owned by the council, and the council are the ones that sends us out letters and everything. But we do have a committee who walk around and check everything. So I don't know if it's self-managed or allotment run per se. But the stories I have heard about the self-managed sites and the various other allotment sites that are self-managed, mostly good, but you've got to have a good committee involved. I have heard stories, and I'm trying not to be negative here, but the stories I've heard are that there are some allotment committees that basically make up the rules as they go along and feel because it's their allotment site, they can do what they want. That being said, I'm sure there's a lot of things that would be done a lot faster if it was a self-managed allotment site. I'm going to quickly have a look at the comments and enter your comments or call in or zap yourself in if you have anything that you want to add to this. So Stuart Jackson has moved over, so I can see him now. Yeah, allotment life. So somebody speaking from experience. Self-run is better. Council interference can be a pain. But he does add that he has a decent committee. And I think that's quite an important thing to acknowledge, that the decent committee is what it needs. I certainly agree. Ed Loud, self-managed would be good, I guess, if they truly let you make your own rules. But I can't help feeling the council would still interfere and place rules on the land. Well, if the council owns the land, excuse me, I think it's only right that they would then make up the rules. I think that's quite fair to say. Although Ed, who says that, is saying just a feeling, like little experience on the topic at all, just a feeling. Now, Steve, who is the one asking the question, let's see if I can bring this up. I feel it all comes down to who is self-managing and allow all to contribute. Yeah, I think that is quite an interesting thing. I feel that the rules would need to be, in some ways, perhaps a democracy on the allotment site is a better way to look at it, in the fact that everyone involved needs to take part and get involved in setting the rules. There are going to be rules, no matter what way we look at it. One of the allotment sites I had before had hardly any rules, and it wasn't I would say there was a lot of what looked like empty plots, but they weren't empty plots. They were just very overrun. It wasn't the easiest ground to work on anyway, and stuff did struggle to grow. But because there was no real committee or nobody checking on the sites, people could go, or people could not use their allotment for a year or two, and nobody would batter an eyelid. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I think it's a bad thing in some ways because the weeds then take over and affect the people who are working a lot on their allotment. That being said, I've got bad couch grass on my current allotment. I'm down there on a at least weekly basis unless I go away on holiday. During the summer, I'm down there on a daily basis. Can I keep on top of the couch grass? No, I can't. Does that mean I should not be on my allotment site? I don't know. Right. Oh, no. Oh, Steve, I think the council just want to collect the money off to the self-managed group and have nothing further to do with it. That could be an interesting thing. Now, Allotment Life, who we have a female secretary who goes by the book, and I, as chairman, back her. So you're chairman. That's great. So you kind of know a bit more than any of us who are flying in the dark a bit. Added to that, he does say we still have basic rules to follow. I think that's quite right. Did I? Steve, it might mean we can work out our rules and not have strange ones like no sheds. Actually, yes, that is a good point. I know in Steve's allotment site, and I've been there a few times, they are not allowed any sheds, although I have seen a few sheds on there. Not allowed any greenhouses. And although Steve's plot itself is quite small, I do think not having a shed is a bit of a weird rule, because I think, just checking the phone is on, it is. I think personally, an allotment, the shed is the heart. It gives you somewhere to go and shelter when it's wet. It gives you somewhere to store your tools. It just makes life on the allotment that bit more appealing. Stuart Jackson, with allotments, I have found that it's hard to get on. The old members always want to run the show, and the committee never changes, so newbies give up and leave. I was about to say I've not found that, but I do know somebody who have had problems because their neighbour who is on the committee is down on the allotment every day and everything's pristine. He was a working man down there every few days and didn't find it. Good evening, Lee. Nice to see you. So I'm just going to add the link. If anybody wants to zap themselves in and join me on the screen to discuss this at length, then please click on the link if you can see it. Where were we? So every plot holder, every plot holder on site is asked to attend meetings and, if required, a chance to vote on any change. If they don't attend, no excuse if they break the rules. That is actually quite a fair way of running a self-managed site. So if anybody who's just joined, are self-managed allotment sites any better than council run? This is from a question to Steve. So actually, when decisions are being made and people are aware of it, telling them and making them know about it might be a little cop out. As I said earlier, the democracy thing, everyone on the allotment site should be involved in how it runs. Allotment sheds are allowed on our plots. All we ask is to submit requests. There are size limits. That's exactly the same on my allotment site as well. We have size limits which only came into play a couple of weeks ago, last year, sorry, a couple of weeks ago. But we've always had to request it, and we had to be on the plot for at least 12 weeks before we could have a shed. So I think that's quite reasonable. However, what do you think out there? Just going to have a swig of my coffee. I've got a text message. And somebody's text this live show. What have they said? Oh, from a Halifax. I don't have an Halifax bank account. So why are they texting me? God knows. So I'm getting the impression from the discussion we're having out here that the ability for self-managed allotment sites to run themselves seems better, providing everyone is involved and comes in with the decision making all the way along. So that I'm waiting to see if there's anybody who has any other objections to that summarizing. And Stuart's saying, and now earlier I mentioned that I've had trouble or spoken to people who have said that they've been on their allotment and they get kicked off because they're not able to go down there every day. And although they do their best and make the most amount of time, it's harder to keep up with weeds. Whereas their neighbours who are down there several hours every day are always pristine. And I think that's certainly a thing with allotment sites. And I think if you are self-managed, there's a chance you can probably make your case a bit better than trying to talk to somebody in a council office about it. Because after all, everybody on the allotment site is going to be working with you and want to do the same. I don't think really anybody wants to kick anybody off an allotment site. It should be one member, one vote on all items to be fair to everyone. Yeah, I mean, it's a million and one questions. In Beddoes, they want to put your money into your account, but need to. Oh, talking about this text message. Sorry. Yes. And Allotment Live, being disabled, I find it hard now to run my plot, but I don't want to give it up. I've suggested a plot share to get somebody off the waiting list. Now, I think there's somebody here who can probably add something to this conversation, and it's going to be a test to see, does it work? Hello, mate.
Hello, dude. How you doing?
Oh, hang on, I can't hear you.
Oh, Matt. Oh, there we go.
Hang on. Why can't I hear you?
Hello?
Speak.
Hello?
Oh, I know why. Hang on. Bear with. Audio. Because... Right, that should work now. I heard you for a second there.
Oh, damn. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hopefully there's not going to be any echo going out to anybody else this time.
Hey,
apparently everyone else can hear you, but I couldn't hear you.
Oh, cool. How you doing, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, good, man. Right, can I just ask you a question? Why is there a limit to the sizes of sheds on allotments?
In our case, it's they kind of came up with this rule that at least 75% of the allotment plot has to be dedicated to growing. And there were people, you've seen my neighbour's site, who have a shed pretty big. And I think it was to stop it basically becoming just full of sheds and nothing else.
Bigger than people's houses, that one, mate.
It was, wasn't it? I mean, it's still there. This is what I don't understand. They put this rule in and it's still there.
It's a strange one. What are the options? Right, okay, obviously there is a limit, and they try to stop mini housing estates popping up in there. What is the other options to a shed on an allotment?
You could possibly get one of those seats that you lift up and put everything inside. I can't think what they're called. I've not described it very well.
Seat storage.
Yeah, seat storage. That's it. That's one option. Or what else could we do? Bury everything in the ground in a underground.
Have you done this before? This thing, I quite like the idea of it, like having like a secret place for your tools.
I've not done it myself, but I'm on clay and trying to dig out that much clay. It's
of course.
Really
also, even if you did, you wouldn't tell us because that would be against the point of doing it.
That would defeat the point. However, on my old allotment site, somebody did actually build an underground shed. And he would go down there to do some meditation and stuff. He was a bit of a hippie, shall we say. And he dug it out, went under there. It looked fantastic. And then the fire brigade came along and said, no, you're not allowed it because there's only one way in and one way out.
How did the fire brigade get involved in that?
Somebody must have reported it to the council and they didn't like the health and safety side of it.
That's community for you right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, how's your shed? Just talking with sheds, mate. How's your shed coming on?
I am trying every day, phoning the company for the cladding to find out what's happening, and they're not answering.
Don't tell me the cladding's not even turned up.
Cladding's not turned up. I spoke to them a few weeks ago, and they said, "Yeah, it's fine." They are having delivery issues because of what's going on in the world.
I've got a building estate popping up near me quicker than your shed.
I know, it's annoying the out of me. Yeah, I'm now, because they're not answering my phone calls or my emails. Might have to take it further, but yeah, I'm waiting for this cladding.
You need to get that sorted, man. Tell me, mate. So I've only got experience from a council-run allotment. I didn't even know there were such things as self-managed allotments. What does that even mean?
My understanding is that the council still own a plot and people still pay the council for the plot, but the actual day-to-day running is under this self-managed allotment people. So they would have their own people going around inspecting the plots, setting the rules. Any plot holders have problems, they go to them. That's my understanding. The council basically doesn't get involved unless they have to.
Makes sense. Probably better. Well, that's the question, is it? Is it better?
Is it better? This is the question I'm asking.
The only thing with that is, if you get like a little click going, then it could be unfair to other people.
That is something I did wonder, if it gets a bit too clicky. And it always happens, doesn't it? There are times when people get clicky or people don't feel involved. But I think that's down to the people in charge to not let it happen.
Yeah. How far are we into show that? What's the general consensus at the moment of this question?
I'm just seeing what people are saying. I think the general self-managed allotment sites seem to be better, provided it's done in the right way and it's managed properly, is the general consensus I'm getting.
That's good, man. Good times. Do sheds usually have more than one exit? That's a good point, Julia. So I just read Julia's message saying, do sheds usually have more than one entry exit? Which is actually a very good point.
It is, yeah. I think that was... Well, that being said, you're not likely to get buried should the roof cave in on a shed. Well, underground, I guess, is a point I would make on that. Yeah. But yeah, let me put that on the screen so everyone can see. Do sheds usually have more than one entry/exit?
It's a good point. Well made.
It's a good point. Very good point. But the fishermen, I like this. Self-managed aren't always anything to do with the council. Many times it's a community group renting privately off a landowner, which is also very true. And in fact, the person that was asking this question, I know that I think his actually belongs to an estate or part of so it might become that the council gets pushed out the way.
Probably better, as long as no one sells up. I suppose you've got no control if the council sell up either, to be fair to you. So
yeah. Sorry, I put the wrong one up on the screen there. Sorry. Yeah. The other thing I would say is that generally the people in the council office don't really work in an allotment.
No, of course not.
They're just very much...
Well, you're saying they don't really understand the day-to-day living.
Yeah. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, because there's always an impartial point of view to be taken into account. But at the same time, it's a bit like we were saying earlier, people who do have to work can't always go down the allotment on a daily basis and might struggle to keep on top of the weeds. Now, there's a difference between not being able to keep on top of the weeds and letting the weeds go rampant. So
well, I think it's ridiculous. You get weed notices. I think out of everyone who's done that allotment, I mean, I'm sure there's loads more like you, but I'm sure there's a lot worse, and you still get a weed notice. I think that's a bit.
Well, I haven't had one this year, so I mean,
they've been
yeah,
busy.
I mean, I've been busy, yeah. But to be fair, the couch grass on my allotment site does take over, and it does make it look like it's just grass everywhere, which is always a problem with couch grass. Even though there might be potatoes growing amongst them, it's a difficult one to keep on top of. But that's joys of allotment life, isn't it? Dealing with an allotment.
Is there a limit to how much grass you can have on an allotment?
It comes down to, in our rules, it does depend on other sites. Our rules, there has to be 75% dedicated to growing plants, be it vegetables, flowers, trees, etc., etc.
Got ya. It's that percentage game.
Percentage game. Although, if you've got paths, and this is a bit I never quite understood, paths don't necessarily come into it.
Where's it? Where does how on an allotment do you deal with paths? Full stop. Who looks after these paths?
On mine and my previous one, we had a responsibility to keep the paths trimmed so that people can walk up and down. And which I mean, they were more of a boundary than anything. I felt
there's not like a given rule for it.
Sorry,
there's not like a given rule that you must like at home. You have to look after a certain side of your fence.
Oh yeah. No, there's no given rule. On ours, it's just you have to make sure the pathways are always clear. Yeah. But the actual area, because as you know, I can drive down to my allotment site, right to my plot, and park up. That the main areas or the main larger areas is down to the council to come along and mow every now and then. I usually save them a bit of time because I mow it to get the grass for mulching or for covering over. Of
course. Makes sense, mate. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow, good show, my friends. Good show.
Right.
People will call in and tell you what they think.
Yeah, this is what I want to find out. What do people think? And help Steve with this question he's been asking.
Awesome, man. Have a great show, dude.
You too, dude. Nice to see you.
I don't know how you've come up with this setup. It looks brilliant. Really great.
Yeah, well, you know how it is. Play around.
I'll see you later, fella.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. There we go. That was Lee Connolly, in case you haven't guessed. So there's quite a few comments coming in during that time. Ernie has joined. Hello, buddy. Allotment Life, he actually hid tools under a shed floor. So great idea. Nigel, some allotment sites can be located in floodplains, so underground storage may not always be good. And yeah, that's a valid point. The fisherman, we have a big blue shipping container. No sheds allowed on site in the container. There are areas marked out for each plot holder to keep tools. No chance of theft. So there you go. That's an option if you're not allowed sheds. Perhaps if it's self-run, you could do something like that. There are quite a few comments. There we go. Turbo Stream. Our allotment is owned by local village trust, but run by a committee. I think that's similar to how mine is worked. What else? And coming back to that paths conversation, the path on our site is for councils to keep right. The borders are the responsibility of a plot holder. I think that's the same on mine. You've put it a lot more succinct than what I could have worded it, though. And Stuart has came out with a really good question. I still don't understand why greenhouses or sheds are not allowed on an allotment, which is a very good question. I thought we were about to have somebody else come in there and share his few thoughts on that, but he's disappeared. But yeah, I don't understand why greenhouses or sheds are not allowed on an allotment, because to me, I just think that makes a lot of sense. After all, I think a shed just becomes the heart of an allotment site, or even a greenhouse. I spend quite a bit of time in my greenhouse these days, and I love it. Absolutely love it. Now, talking of sheds, allotments, and greenhouses, Mr. Kevin Hall. Can you hear me, Kevin? Are you there, Kevin? Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Oh, excellent, excellent. How you doing?
I'm cool. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. We have a video coming up from your allotment well, I was going to play it any second now, but I thought we'd chat to you first.
I'm getting a double feedback. What's going on?
You might have to silence the one that you were watching on because you're joining in on a different web page. Does that make sense?
Well, hopefully that's sorted it out. It should be gone now.
Okay, there we go. There we go. I can hear you, so that's
technology
good.
and myself, Richard, do not mix very well.
No, well, even the best of us have troubles as well, so I won't worry too much. So, Kevin, what's your thoughts on this self-managed allotment sites?
Hang on. Something's going very awry.
Something's going very awry. I tell you what, let's have a look at some comments while you sort yourself out. You tell me when you're ready, Kevin. So, Alumni for Path on our site is, oh yeah, that's what I said earlier. I don't get flooded, Nigel, but the pit is still lined. Sheds are up to the authorities, but a greenhouse or polytunnel are grown spaces. I agree with that. Yeah, I think they should come into I think they do on ours actually. Greenhouse or polytunnel is part of our 75%. Are you ready, Kevin?
Now I've had a swig of wine. Yeah, I'm fine.
Excellent.
I've actually had to cancel the actual show on YouTube because I think it was feeding back.
Yeah, you get that because there's a delay.
Yeah. Anyway, you were saying something about a video. I couldn't quite because it was doubling over each time. I couldn't hear what you said.
I said I've got a video coming up from you in just a moment.
Oh, right, cool. Yeah.
Of your current allotment site. But would I be right in thinking that you've got a self-managed allotment site, or is it run by the council?
Self-managed. Well, ours is different actually because ours is owned by the Caldry estate, and Caldry estate is massive. Anybody knows about Caldry? It's a huge enterprise, and Viscount Caldry is only worth about £258 million. So he's a bit skint. But he owns all the allotment sites around the Midhurst area. There's the one where I am in New Pond, Bepton Road. There's one in Karen Lane in Midhurst. There's another 2 lots of plots in Esbourne. So he owns a lot, so he owns them, and they are supposed to, as far as I understand it, they are supposed to manage them, but they never do anything there. There's a new lady in charge now who, prior to me, the week before I got my new plot, she went down there and was trying to pinpoint the plot that I wanted. But 2 of the plots, mine, which is 18A and 18B, were not even on their plans. So, so that tells you something. But the fencing all around, the sort of the boundaries to where the allotments are, they're all falling down. It's left to the allotment holders to sort them out. but the boundary is also going around the plots. I volunteered to clear my plot and sort out the fencing, put new posts in, etc. Because normally what would happen is when a plot became vacant due to not being used properly, Keldry would send their guys in to clear the plot completely, and then it's ready for a new tenant to come in on. But I volunteered to do it myself. Actually, if I'd have known how much work was involved in clearing that plot, perhaps I would have said nothing and let them do it themselves because it was so overgrown, particularly behind the greenhouse. And as you know, when you came down with Amanda, you couldn't even see the greenhouse from one angle because it was completely covered in brambles.
Right. It was a mess.
Yeah, absolute mess. Yeah. So we've done a huge amount of work. I've only had it 2 weeks now. But yeah, Keldry is supposed to manage it, but it's really left to the allotment holders to sort it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so in your experience, the self-managed allotment site hasn't really worked because the people who are meant to be managing it aren't doing anything.
No. I spoke to one of the guys, one of the elderly gentlemen that's down there, and he said that it is very, very rare for anybody from Keldry Estate to turn up there to have a look.
Right.
So, and to be honest, the Keldry Estate offices are only a mile away, mile and a half away.
Right. So they're quite local.
Oh, yeah, very. But the lady that's taken over, she actually said that, and you saw it yourself, how many plots there are not being worked properly. She said she wants to see every plot work properly and in a proper manner.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's great. If she's going to be that determined to sort it out properly, then great, because it's. I'm now clearing my plot. There's a lady got the plot next to me. She was down there yesterday doing some work. She's quite lucky because the gentleman to the right hand side of her, he's been keeping the plot the grass cut so that it doesn't start encroaching onto his property.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean I know when I had a look at it, I thought you've got your work cut out for you with it.
Yeah.
But
It's a hell of a lot of work.
You've got a shed and a greenhouse on yours, which we'll see in this little video.
Well, shall we say the shed is a bit of a joke, a bit of a laughing point, because Cynthia Warder is also helping me on this to try and clear it out, the site, but she very bravely went into the shed yesterday to start clearing some stuff out. And as you face into the shed on the left-hand side, the left-hand wall is bulging out towards the greenhouse.
Right.
And there is nothing left of the bottom of the shed at all because it's just completely rotted out. So my plan is to take that shed out completely, which will let more light into the greenhouse.
Yeah.
And then we put another shed at the back of the plot, which will be almost out of sight, really. So,
yeah. I mean, what I found interesting with your allotment site or your allotment plot is that your plot that you've got now has been empty or not used for 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that would not be allowed, or on my allotment site, if somebody had that plot, they wouldn't be allowed to let it get into the state that yours was in, unless it had been vacant, which does happen.
Yeah. But the lady that's got the plot 18B next to me, she said she's been on a waiting list 5 years. Now, you've seen how bad some of those plots have been left. Mm-hmm. And you can't tell me that Keldry's been doing their job properly, because some of them have been overgrown worse than mine. If mine's been left 18 months, 2 years, and it's got in the state it is now, some of them plots have been left for 3-4 years and not been touched.
Yeah, of course.
Which is such a shame because there's, I'm very new as you know, Richard, I'm very, very new into this game of allotments. And there's so many people crying out for allotments to for all different manners of reason, for different reasons, you know, for mental health, for getting out in the fresh air,
Yeah.
to try and get families to work on them, you know, kiddies as well. My daughter's very keen to get my grandson to come along and get his hands into the mud and the dirt and the grass and everything else. And it's just, I think it's atrocious, really, that these plots have been left so long.
Yeah.
But people are still paying the rents. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, that's a bit I don't understand. They're still paying the rent, yet they're not using it. It's you might as well just take your money and flush it down the toilet.
exactly, yeah. But
Yeah.
one thing I did do from your advice is I did invest in some heavy duty weed suppressant membrane.
Yeah.
Cost me about 17 quid off of eBay,
Right.
and it
Yeah.
was 10 meters long by 4 meters wide, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm using it on my allotment site at the moment as well. It's just an easy way to, when you're not using an area, to basically suppress the weeds, so you have less
Absolutely.
work to do.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah.
And you're going to need as much help as you can get on yours, dare I say.
Well, I'm waiting for someone. Yeah, once all the weeds are gone, I'm waiting for someone from LA to come along with his rotavator and finish the job for us.
Yeah, well, I can't come at the moment, you know, with all this lockdown restrictions.
Well, 6 months' time, when the weeds, the membrane's taken up, we should be fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And you're younger than me, so you don't mind all that sort of thing.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I have less time.
Yeah. All right, Richard, I'll let you crack on. I don't want to hog up all your show.
Well, I'm going to show off your video now as you've segued into it, so everyone can have an idea what we're on about.
Cheers, Richard.
Cheers, David. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Let's wait for him to go. There he goes. Figured it out. So, on that note, let's show everyone what we're talking about.
Morning, Mr. Suggett. Kevin here. I've just come down to the allotment. I did a little video yesterday for you, but I was using my directional mic and I kept forgetting which way it had to be facing. Anyway, wanted to give you an update on what we've been doing. First bit of plastic is down. I'll walk you down through the site so you can see exactly what's been going on. The fence posts I'm going to have a look at in a minute. Got my tools and that already there. We've still got a lot of brambles to cut back here, but the old shed is still standing. I don't know how, but the greenhouse needs a good old bit of work on it. As you can see, it's pretty grotty inside here. I think we've got one pane of glass over the far side that's slipped, and 2 or 3 minor breakages, but they can be sorted out quite easily. We've got loads of spare glass in the shed. But if you remember, this was all woodland here, just in this bit, and over here. So what I've done is cut it all out, and they were alder trees or alder saplings. So they're all out. Dug some of the roots out, but not many. Some of them are too big to dig out at the moment. Cut all these alder trees that are through here. Got some stumps sticking up in different places, which are going to be cut down by a neighbour of mine that's over there. He's having the wood for his log burner. But we uncovered 2 compost bins. They're about half or 3/4 full. Huge water butt. And another water butt there. Took some trees out in that corner, which have all been burnt up. But there used to be a gate here. And behind here at the back, there's a big pond. So what we're thinking about doing, once the fence is, the fence itself is all okay. That can be straightened up, just needs new posts in it. What we're thinking of doing is actually clearing all these brambles away so they're not going to encroach into this bit of the allotment, and put a new gate up in here so we've got access through to the back, like some other people have done further up, and they've actually opened it up so they can see the pond and all the wildlife on there. So that's something we're thinking about doing. Some of the blackcurrant bushes were completely rotten, so they've been taken out. So you can see that fantastic progress has been made in just a week. I took the plot over officially a week ago Thursday, so that's when I took it over. So I think in a week we've done very, very well. One bonus was found a wheelbarrow. I managed to get the wheel off, and I've got a new tar and tube at home. I meant to have brought that down with me to get that sorted out, but I'm going to take the wheel home and get that put onto the tar and tube put onto that. So anyway, that's the update from here at 18A New Pond Allotments. So I'm going to now carry on and get some more plastic down.
So there we go. That is what we were on about. If anybody wants to zap themselves in like Kevin just did, I've added the link, or you can call in on 07307 135 174. Right. So Stephen Musco, hello to you. Our allotments are regularly inspected and the letter is sent out to a plot holder if at least 75% of it is not being grown in. And that's a similar thing to the rules on my allotment site as well. And along the same sort of lines, officially fencing is not allowed on a lot of sites. Mine, we have to get permission to have a lot fencing. But what we saw in Kevin's is actually they do have fencing. I was quite surprised when I first saw that. But what I also, where is it? What I also took away from when we went from Kevin's site, now, how bad it was at the beginning. What you probably didn't see in that was just, let me bring up that, how bad it was in the very beginning when he took it on. At the very bottom of his allotment site, where you did see all those trees and all those brambles, that was all pretty much all of his allotment site. It was like that. So Kevin really has had his work cut out, and to see how far he's came already is absolutely amazing. He has popped videos in the Facebook group if anybody does want to go and see it and just see how it started off with. It's quite eye-opening, and I'll tell you what, it's such a good sign. Oh, Allotment Live is saying he can't zap in, not on my laptop. I'm not quite sure why that's not working, but you can call in 07307 135 174 if the zapping in doesn't work. Nigel, gosh, what an appalling state. Well done, Kevin Rambles, for all the work you have done. Absolutely. So, but what I'm taking away from that, and I think this is quite fitting, that in Kevin's case, a self-managed allotment site hasn't necessarily worked without the right people at the top to run it correctly. Would I say self-managed? Yeah. And I think that's where self-managed allotment sites, and even council-run allotment sites for that matter, it needs the right people at the top to work with the allotment holders, but also push things along that need to happen. And I think I've discussed before about the ideal allotment sites, or what I would have. There's so many things I would have. And where was the comment I saw from Stuart Jackson? If he says, I wish I had the money to buy some land, then turn it to allotments, as we don't have enough around here. Well, that's always been a dream of mine, actually, to have if enough money to have a land and buy somewhere I can build an allotment site. But I would also have like a cafe, a restaurant, and a garden centre, or a nursery type thing as well alongside it to boost things along. Turn it into an actual place that people want to go and people can be proud of and really enjoy spending time down on the allotment. And of course, most of us do enjoy spending time on the allotment. Of course, I certainly do. It's my little piece of heaven. It's my favourite place to go to, in my general opinion. Allotment Live, I was surprised to see barbed wire on Kevin's site. I I wasn't surprised because of where Kevin is. There's a lot of barbed wire out there, but I do think barbed wire this day and age, with the amount of deers that it causes a lot of damage to, barbed wire's probably not the best thing to have. A few more comments. So there we go. Steve, I think everyone is able to have a voice and get involved with running a site, then all is good. I am hoping that might be the case with our site, and I'm ready to get involved. So there we go, Steve. I think we have figured out this this question for you throughout this show, and I think it's certainly the summary that I came up with. Everyone needs to have a voice and get involved, but if people don't get involved, they cannot be, they can't complain when things don't go how they like it. As long as there's a good reason that they, or as long as there's not a good reason that they haven't got involved, like on one particular meeting they ended up in hospital or something, that to me is a valid reason to not get involved. But yeah, now I have found out some news for today. Let me find the news that I wanted to share with you, and as we're coming to the end, I thought I'd bring this up and give you something to think about for next week. So what have we got? Let me just go to the share screen. There we go. So this article came from The Guardian, and it's written by James Wong. For homegrown treats, plant fruit trees. Once established, a few trees will keep your fruit bowl full for years. I completely agree with that. Growing your own is often touted as a quick, cheap and easy route to self-sufficiency. But even as someone who makes their living helping people to do it, I have to tell you, it's really none of those things. I wouldn't say it's none of those things personally, but I get it's not as easy as it's made out to be. It's probably a better way. The incredible flavours, enormous range of varieties, fresh air and exercise and sheer joy of the process more than make it up for considerable investment in time and effort cash that is required to grow food for yourself. However, there is one type of crop that is a notable exception, providing you with harvests for decades to come and giving you access to many hard-to-find varieties in exchange for very little outlay: fruit trees. And right now is the perfect time to plant one. I think people often put off growing fruit trees because of all the confusing pruning rules and hard-to-follow diagrams you find in gardening books. But here is the simple truth. Dig a hole, plant an apple tree in it, water it regularly for the first year or so, and then without doing anything else, you'll enjoy harvests of apples for anything up to the next 50 years. I do agree, actually. Pruning in books and stuff do make it sound very complicated. And sometimes you can be a bit lazy with fruit trees. May not be as simple as he's made it out there, but I do think there is something to be said for it. The trees will, of course, grow bigger and produce more fruit trees. I tell you what I could do. Let's just see if I can, which one is it? Let's do this. That's better. Sorry. No, I can't do it. I was trying to do something a bit different there. The trees, of course, will grow bigger and produce more fruit if you get the pruning right, but this really isn't essential. The trees will do just fine if left to themselves. All you have to do is look at fruiting apple trees growing on the verges of many of the country's motorways, which must have sprouted up from pits, from cores chucked from car windows, to know that these trees absolutely do not require teams of dedicated horticulturists to stay alive. I agree with that. I do agree with that. Nature has a way. Now it goes on to say choose an unusual variety grown by Swiss breeders. I would actually say I would prefer English grown varieties. But if you want something even quirkier, try a quince. Curious, fragrant little fruits, cross between an apple and a pear, and can be grown in exactly the same way as either of their close relatives. You can use them as you would a cooking apple too, with a aromatic pear drop perfume and slippery texture. And they're delicious. And sour cherries, definitely worth a mention. Before the Second World War, at least 50 sour cherry varieties were commercially cultivated in Britain. We now barely have one. So, quite a bit that he's going on and saying about that. Interesting article, I thought. So, what are your thoughts? We've got about 4 minutes to go. But I can see there's some comments already coming in that, as this one says, growing fruit trees is good, but too many plot holders let them grow too high. Picking is difficult. I agree. We have, and he goes on to say, being disabled, I keep mine to about 7 foot max. We have height restrictions on our allotment site that they can only go up to about 8 foot, 2.4 meters. I don't think they stick to that rule very well, but yeah, definitely keeping it in check is something. But you can buy the right variety that will keep its size under control. Now, Ed Loud, sounds easy. Digs a hole in the windowsill for an apple tree. Yeah, it's not quite going to work out in circumstances in that. Yeah, I think that's... if you've got a garden or an allotment site, it is easy to grow an apple tree if your rules allow it. Some allotments don't actually allow trees, so not always the case. But if you haven't got somewhere like that, I think that is a very valid point there, Ed. So yeah, quite a bit to think about, and I think we will return to this next week because I do love fruit trees. I've got quite a few of them. In fact, I've got 3 that we grew in pots that we used as decoration on our wedding day. We've still got those in the same pots out in our gardens, but I've probably got to give them a bit of attention soon, actually, and put them into something a bit bigger. Allotment life. Admittedly, I have tall trees I inherited but want to get rid of. Yeah. In fact, I do actually remember on my old allotment site, we had this beautiful apple tree. I say beautiful. It was a columnar, but it produced a lot of apples. It was very old, and it produced some delicious apples. Which it was on when I got married. Our theme was apples on our wedding. We used a lot of the apples from that tree on our wedding day. So yeah. So I'm going to start wrapping up now. We've got 1 minute to go. But Kevin has said if you're interested, he will bring more updates as he goes along. And I'm very interested to see. And of course, if anybody else out there does have any videos or any updates they want to share with me, then of course please do send a video in to me. WeTransfer.com is the easiest way to send it to me. Go to WeTransfer.com. My email address is richard@theveggrawlpodcast.co.uk, and I'll get it that way. Or you can just email me, richard@theveggrawlpodcast.co.uk, if you want any help or anything like that. Just quickly, for full potential, I think fruit trees need to be very well managed, but even without that, you will still get fruit and apples. I think that's true, very true. Allotment life, it's not only the size of the fruit tree, but where the root travels, also very true. We've got hello from Canada, just came in for water in the garden. Unfortunately, it's came up with Facebook user, so I'm not quite sure who that is. For some, Facebook works funny in some ways. I think that might be either Pauline or Ian or I can't. Dirk, I think is a name. Interesting hearing this. Sounds as though I'm very lucky to be on essentially no rules sites. The downside is the council do bugger all. The good side is we can do whatever we like. Yeah. Yes. The Facebook user was Durka. Anyway, yeah, interesting hearing this. I think that is a good point. You've got to take the rough with the smooth and choose what's best. I think that's very fair to say. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up for tonight because I'm getting hungry. I think my dinner will be ready soon, and I've got a lot of podcasts to pot out and get producing. Going on. Sorry, some comments just distract me from time to time when I see them pop up, and that was from Ian Beddoes, not me. I'm over here now. Wasn't talking about you, Ian. Oh yeah, Jim M was saying about I showed that, saying about the interesting rules, etc., etc. And I think that's a valid point. Yeah, I'm getting hungry, and as Allotment Life has just said, you are always hungry. I think that's why I've got such a belly anyway. So on Monday night's podcast, I'm going to be talking about cuttings and how I've been taking cuttings from some of my herb plants in a way to expand in my collection of herbs. So that's coming up. And we'll be back again next Sunday, 6 p.m, another live show. We're going to be following on from this conversation with the fruit trees. In a couple of weeks' time, I'm actually going to a place that sells fruit trees for a podcast interview. So that'll be worth listening to in relation to this. So let's get thinking of questions I can ask this company that produces fruit trees, ready for that, and get that going for next week. Anyway, please take care, everyone. And we'll be back again next week. If I can just find the right button.